Hello, thanks for tuning in to my official YouTube channel. Reverend MeeLing, also known as Reverend Susan MeeLing, Lady Dori, Belle, so on and so forth. I've been known by a few names. So, I'm in a bit of a temper tantrum-y mood because I did plan to go somewhere. However, because of the social distance, which I didn't think that a national state park would actually need to reduce numbers when it's got acreage. However, that aside, whatever. That being said, so I was reading on the Twitter thing, few things. I'm going to tie it all together, okay? So this might be a little bit of a longer post of a video thing. So there's that guy Ice-T. I used to listen to his music, by the way, when I was growing up in New Jersey and walking around in New York. And so, you know, I have a feeling he understands where I grew up walking around and stuff like that. I have a feeling he understands where, I mean, not that he knows exactly who I am. I don't know if he does, but like, I'm just saying, like, if in that regard he knows. I grew up listening to his music. Him and Eazy-E and Ice Cube and Wu-Tang Clan. Yes. And yeah, I know they're not all the same, obviously, but there's the genre of music that Anyway, he made a post in reference to, you don't see certain things going on when, like the number of, what was it? Something along the lines of you don't see the same number of problems in certain regards. And so then I saw one of the little Twitter thingamabobs in reference to some Antifa individuals going to Sturgis thing. Not the exact same, but there's certain similarities. So I have to preface this with, during my Medal of Honor art project trip, when I went to Montana, I had made a group of individuals that I knew or know, laugh quite a bit. Because when I got back, I had told them, I said that I had found this gas station that had these Sturgis t-shirts. And I was wondering where their college was. And a bunch of them laughed. Not in a mean way, they just kind of were like, haha, come on, like, you've got to know what Sturgis is. And it's like, no, like, it's a college, right? And then they got angry. And it was explained to me very quickly that Sturgis is not a college. That has to do with motorcyclists. My mistake. So there were a bunch of other t-shirts in the area that said something college, so I kind of figured that's my mistake. I fully acknowledge that's my mistake. I didn't know. I don't ride motorcycles. I respect motorcycles. I respect motorcyclists. I have this thing. There have been a few times I've done this where I've scared a couple motorcyclists. Not on purpose, more along the lines of because I've seen too many people driving too close to them, and if I can't pull the car back, I will zoom up and get in between that particular car and the motorcyclists, and then just slow down so that way the car can't get that close to motorcyclists. And it doesn't matter whether they're police officer motorcyclists or regular motorcyclists. I have this weird thing, I can't help it. It just like I see it and it's just on, and I'm really weird about that. It's something that I've done since before my head injury on Palm Sunday in 2000. It's kind of gotten a little bit I'm a little protective of motorcyclists. I don't deny that. I know that they're all big raw. I get it. And a lot of motorcyclists have military backgrounds or family members of military back. I've just had this thing. I can't help it. I don't mean to cause any problems for the motorcyclists. I don't. The people who get too close to them, I have an issue with them. And it's a personal thing. I've never actually driven a motorcycle. I just have this extremely overprotective aspect where I am how I am. I've been this way before my head injury on Palm Sunday in 2000, and as one particular individual that knew me before my head injury on Palm Sunday in 2000 could very much say, because she did, that I am, in certain regards, there's certain parts of my personality that are like they never existed, but then there's the other parts of my personality that had been before my head injury on Palm Sunday in 2000 and then got really ramped and revved up, pun intended. And so before my head injury on Palm Sunday in 2000, I did that when it came to motorcyclists. Mainly the non-crotch rocket type. There are some crotch rockets that I've been protective of, but they usually aren't like the wee type. They're the ones that have more of a I know that's not very helpful, but I know that there are those who understand what I mean on the in comparison to the and so I've still been protective of some of the type as long as they're not stupid when they're on the road. It's a personal thing. So the point being, in reference to my Medal of Honor art project trip, there's a couple of points. There's the point in 2017 with that red Hyundai that wouldn't get out of the way on the Montana highway after going to the vortex with my son during my Medal of Honor art project drop-off trip, and that red Hyundai that just would not pull off to the side so that way people could go around, not just me. Like when my son was in the car, I tried to stay calm and obviously my Medal of Honor art project pieces, but especially with my son, I was like, look, this red Hyundai that won't get out of the way. Look, there's a shoulder that they can pull off to the side to, and look in the rear to us, look in the side mirror, see all of the, not just the, because my son and I were in the white Dodge Grand Caravan, but look at all the people in the trucks and the semi-trucks and the cars and the SUVs and all of those motorcyclists, which, I mean, I'm protective, I don't deny it, but like when it comes to that particular aspect, the macadam road is black. Motorcyclists, they get, cooled off while wearing their leathers. If they're wearing a helmet, it's a personal preference that they do, but nonetheless, I get that there are guys who don't because they enjoy that sort of whatever, and okay, and in the state of Texas, it's just hot. Nonetheless, in Montana, they only get the air conditioning from the wind when they're driving. So, I had pointed out to my son and I was like, look, there's all of those people. If this red Hyundai and the people in the car would just get out of the way, there were a few cars that were in between that red Hyundai and then the white Dodge Grand Caravan that I was driving that were able to pass that red Hyundai. But once I went to go around it, anytime that it got the dotted line that you could go around, that red Hyundai would speed up and not get out of the way. And then as soon as it got back to the solid stripe line, they would slow down. And being in the Dodge Grand Caravan, mainly because of the weight, because of there were 20 Medal of Honor art project pieces. No, 15. There were 15 of them. I hadn't dropped I had dropped a couple of them off. So there were 15 Medal of Honor art project pieces in the back of the van, and each one of them weighed a bit of weight. And then there was the luggage and all that sort of stuff, and then, you know, the safety of my son, as well as all of those Medal of Honor art project pieces. And so I couldn't get the engine to get up in speed to be able to go around it, but it didn't realistically matter because they had a Hyundai, a little rice burner, and so they were able to speed up in ways that I obviously couldn't, not safely, especially on the mountain going upward on an incline on top of that. And so I was doing what I could, but knowing that if I sped up too much and then had to hit the brakes, all of those Medal of Honor art project pieces with glass, you know, on top of the safety for my son and my own safety, of course. But anyway, so those individuals in the red Hyundai not paying attention to the fact that people that go to Sturgis, some of them leave like months in advance because of just being able to drive on the open road, especially when they live in mountainous areas, because, you know, snow and motorcycles probably doesn't go nearly as well as trucks and snow. I mean, just saying, there's still the issue nonetheless. So then there's also when I was actually in South Dakota, which apparently is where Sturgis is at. And so I saw the t-shirts for what I thought was a college, which obviously was not and is not. Again, my apologies, motorcyclists. But that was in Montana. And I'm not talking when I was staying in Great Falls, Montana. I'm talking when I was in Butte, Montana, and Missoula, Montana, and what was the other one? Anaconda, Montana. So obviously there are people that know what the Sturgis thing is much better than I. By a lot. For example, the people that I had told when I was in Washington State, who very much laughed at me, which I could laugh at myself, so we were laughing at me together, which was fine because I got educated and I could laugh about that. And so, because I didn't know, and I can laugh at certain things about myself, and nonetheless, you know, the other part that those same people laughed with me, at me, about, because I was definitely laughing at myself at this point. So later in 2017, after that traffic issue, which I did tell the people that I was originally talking about, not the Ice-T guy and Ice Cube and Eazy-E and Wu-Tang Clan guys, like not because not that I know of. I don't know if I met them. I would, if I did meet them, I would never know. Like, unless they were like, hi, I'm Ice-T, and you used to listen to me on the radio and when you were walking around certain places, and hi, I'm Ice Cube, and you listened to my music back in when, and you know, hi, I'm, you know, the very many long list of guys from Wu-Tang Clan. And you've listened to us, and so on. So, you know, there's that. I doubt that has occurred, because I don't remember that occurring. And I think that I would remember something like that. Same thing for country music, too. Like, I mean, and not that, like, the Yin Yang Twins or Usher, although they have done some crossover music, you know, it's not like Ludacris came up to me and he was like, hey, I'm Ludacris, and you like my music, especially the Eep Eep Whoop Whoop song. Although a whole bunch of other ones too. Nonetheless, it's not like Garth Brooks came up and he's like, hey, I know you didn't like the Chris Cagle thing, You're not the only one. But hi, I'm Garth Brooks. You listen to my music. Hi, I'm George Strait. Hi, I'm Faith Hill. Hi, I'm Reba McEntire. It's not like that's actually occurred. Thought that'd be pretty cool. Nonetheless, I'm weird. I don't deny this. So, when speaking with the guys in Washington State, I'd be like, I can't believe this traffic. I don't know why this red Hyundai would not get out of the way. And then, making fun of myself for not realizing that the t-shirt for Sturgis meant the motorcycle thing and not college. But in that same year, in 2017, I was going through Sturgis. Irony. When going through South Dakota for my Medal of Honor art project. And at that time, I had no idea about anybody stalking or harassing my Medal of Honor art project, and in turn me, in that regard. And so, I had dealt with threats before, but those stopped. And so there is that aspect, and granted I wasn't online nearly as much, but that's a whole other situation. Anyway, so when I was going through Sturgis, I had told some of the people that I was going through South Dakota that particular year, and they had said that they were going to be at a campground in Sturgis. And so after I had gone through a certain couple of areas on my way, as I was driving through, I'm like, oh, look, there's a sign for a campground. Maybe that's where they're at. And then I saw another sign that said campground 1 over here and campground 2 over here. And then another campground. And the moral of that story is I did not find them because I also didn't know how big those campgrounds apparently are until I drove by them and went, well, I guess I'm just not going to see them today. Maybe. You guys have fun, be safe. And that's it. I can make fun of myself. And so I had no idea that there were that many campgrounds. I knew that there are a lot of motorcyclists. I know that. I've met a lot of motorcyclists. I have modeled sitting on motorcycles. However, anybody's motorcycle that I have been on for any photo shoot could tell you how extremely careful I actually am when it comes to their motorcycles, because first off, there's the custom paint job. Then and I'm not saying that's first and foremost, but especially when there are custom paint jobs, are you kidding me? I know that is not cheap. Then there's the other fact that, I am a klutz. And usually I'm wearing heels that are stiletto heels that I have worn for my modeling shoots with motorcycles. And with my luck, if I was not extra careful, my stiletto heel would puncture something, and then I'd feel really bad because it would have to be fixed and that sort of stuff. Plus, there's no bubble of a, airbag or anything like that. So, then if it wasn't puncturing through the muffler, then, it would be my luck that I'd get tangled on the chain and then, rip that off or something of that nature where it's so I just got to be extremely careful. And the best example I could actually give in reference to that is when I was at Fort Sam Houston. And I completely messed up by saying to the guys who were on U.S. soil for less than 7 days, I got something for you, and not having a clear backpack. And then being told to move extra slowly. And so that's the best example that I can give on how CDO I am about not hurting a motorcyclist's motorcycle. Because I know I'm not a ninja in that regard, especially wearing heels, specifically stiletto heels. And so I am how I am. And I actually helped a guy picked up his motorcycle because it fell over. It freaked out my son because my son was sitting in the car. It was a different point in time. It was like 2018 or 2019. I think it was 2018 actually. And there was this motorcycle that had tipped over, and I was like, put my car in park. I go over. I'm like, "Do you mind if I help you pick up your motorcycle?" And the guy was like, "Yeah, sure, whatever." I was like, "Okay, here you go." And I get back in the car, sit down next to my son as I put my seatbelt on, and I look at him, I'm like, "Now you make sure you ask to touch somebody else's motorcycle before you go and do anything." And then the light turned green and started driving, and he's like, "Mom, you just picked up a motorcycle." Yes, I did. But you make sure, see, I asked permission before touching the motorcycle, so you gotta be very respectful to motorcyclists. And my son just looks at me, he's like, "But Mom, you just picked up a motorcycle." Yes, but I still asked permission before I picked it up. And just keep that in mind. You be respectful when it comes to motorcyclists. They don't have a bubble. I have no idea how much it weighs. It doesn't matter to me. Just, there you go. Anyway, so in reference to my Medal of Honor art project and that particular tweet thingamabob of the Antifas going to a Sturgis thingamabob, I don't see that going well. So, for example, if there were hypothetically like the red Hyundai issue in 2017 with my trying to get around that red Hyundai during my Medal of Honor art project drop-off trip. If those same individuals had gone through and followed me while I was doing my Medal of Honor art project trip, however long, specifically through Sturgis, with the large number of motorcyclists who, if they directly were not a part of the United States of America's armed forces, whichever branch, usually they have family members, like their mom or their dad or who they were raised by. And since motorcycles began because of guys who came back after being in wartime situations and were looking for a way to get around quickly, but also have freedom in a kind of adrenaline sort of way because of what they had already been through and stuff like that, and me going on my Medal of Honor project trip, like, yay. Yay. But then, as I call them, cherubim, causing problems to my Medal of Honor project trip. I would guesstimate that the equivalent of the Antifas going to Sturgis would be the equivalent of those that I call cherubim ones going through Sturgis. And if, hypothetically, there were a bunch of guys who were on their way to Sturgis or were getting ready for stuff or just out riding their motorcycles because they were just, tired of being in the house after snow in Montana, I at least tried to get out of the way. I tried to go around that red Hyundai so that way, not just myself, but others would be able to go around that female that had blonde hair wrapped in a black cloth, but had blonde hair coming out of the sides, with that male that looked like, as far as the passenger, that those two look like my neighbors from N as in November 208 at the Lodge at Madrona apartment complex. Which in itself is kind of a different thing because despite the fact of not riding motorcycles, mainly because of my lead foot, um, and no bubble, um, and possibly because of where I grew up walking around, there might be certain type of motorcyclists and certain types of backgrounds as far as military guys when the boy, specifically from N as in November 208, had, you know, yip, 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 and you do have one apartment, and could recognize when I was leaning back on the banister like this, and, you know, if you could just not stomp around the way you did. Maybe there's a few guys that could recognize this sort of, well, it would be greatly appreciated if you would just not do that. If you could, and then internally thinking, please just step over the threshold, because all you have to do is take a step outside of your apartment. That's it. But not saying that, just leaning back on the banister. There might be a motorcyclist or a few, maybe a couple military guys with specific backgrounds, or a few, or some guys that I grew up walking around certain areas in New Jersey, as well as certain areas in New York, and specifically Pittsburgh and Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, that could recognize this sort of body language. In reference to N as in November 208. Just, you know, you could just not do that. Like, for example, this would be the body language I would have in reference to those who I consider cherubim ones. Could you not cause problems to my Medal of Honor art project? Could you not cause problems or safety issues for my son and my daughter, myself? Could you not cause problems to each of the different cities of each of the different states that I went through and had planned to go through for my Medal of Honor art project? Maybe there's a few individuals who could recognize this particular body language in that regard. On top of certain motorcyclists, possibly, despite I don't ride motorcycles. However, those individuals who did go to Sturgis that I was referring to in regards to Washington State, we laughed a whole bunch at me for not knowing, first and foremost, that Sturgis is a motorcycle thing. And secondly, because apparently there's more than one campground for Sturgis. So, that being said, you guys have a good one. Comment, like, share, and subscribe to my official YouTube channel.